Juan Orlando Hernández exercised power in Honduras for over a decade, initially as a member of the National Congress and subsequently as the nation's president during 2 terms. In February 2022, just 2 weeks after concluding his second presidential period, he was apprehended following an extradition request from the United States on charges of drug trafficking. Upon his arrival in court in New York in April 2022, Hernandez pleaded not guilty to the 3 charges against him. However, on March 8, 2024, after a 3-week trial, a grand jury convicted him. But how did a young, intelligent, and well-prepared politician who once vowed to transform Honduras into the Singapore of Latin America end up incarcerated in a U.S. prison for drug trafficking? In this episode of Illicit Investigations, we dig into the evidence disclosed during the historic trial of Juan Orlando Hernández. We unpack the clandestine links between the former Honduran president and Joaquín El Chapo Guzman, and how Honduras turned into a narco-state, serving as a key corridor for drugs flowing from South America to the U.S. Stay tuned, and don't miss a single detail of this revealing story. The trial of Juan Orlando Hernández, the former president of Honduras, was marked by dramatic testimonies that detailed the pervasive corruption of every government level by drug money and painted a damning picture of state security forces being co-opted by cartels. Prosecutors alleged that Hernández was involved in a cocaine trafficking conspiracy, using the presidency's power to shield drug lords and solicit millions of dollars in bribes. He was convicted on 3 counts of drug trafficking and weapons charges by a jury in New York. Jose Sanchez, a former accountant for the now-defunct rice company Graneros Nacionales, was the first witness. His testimony implicated 3 former presidents in accepting drug money from Giovanni Fuentes, a convicted drug dealer. Sanchez claimed that Fuentes issued monthly checks to Hernández, as well as to 2 of Hernández's predecessors, Porfirio Pepe Lobo and Jose Manuel Zelaya, who is currently married to Honduras's current president, Xiomara Castro. The connection between the Zelayas and drug money was further underscored during Fuentes' 2021 trial. Davis Leonel Rivera Maradiaga, the ex-leader of the brutal band Los Cachiros, testified to bribing Zelaya with $500,000 in 2006. Rivera Maradiaga, potentially the most disreputable witness during Hernández's trial, had been cooperating undercover with U.S. authorities for over a decade. He confessed to involvement in the murders of 78 people, including 2 journalists and a drug czar from Honduras. During the trial, he testified that he bribed Hernández with $250,000 handed to his sister Hilda in exchange for protection in 2012. Andrea Santos, testifying under this pseudonym, was the girlfriend of Alexander Mendoza, known as El Porky, the MS-13 gang leader in Honduras. She alleged that Mendoza maintained regular contact with Juan Carlos Bonilla, the head of the Honduran National Police and a crucial conspirator in the crimes of Hernández. According to her testimony, MS-13 acquired drugs from 2 powerful Honduran cartels, the Valles and the Cachiros. She also stated that the gang bribed police officials to waive drugs through checkpoints. Furthermore, Mendoza reportedly received a shipment of weapons from Bonilla as reparation for a drug haul mistakenly confiscated by the police. These allegations provided grim confirmation of what many Hondurans had long suspected. The nation's state security forces were colluding with major criminal organizations at the highest levels. Since 2020, Mendoza has been on the run, marked as a wanted fugitive. His escape followed an audacious assault by heavily armed gang members outfitted in Honduran anti-gang police uniforms on a courthouse where Mendoza was being held. The attack resulted in his liberation and the deaths of 4 individuals. In another witness account, investigator Miguel Reynoso attested to being on site when Honduran officials intercepted a convoy of vehicles equipped with concealed compartments containing firearms, grenades, and nearly $200,000 in cash, all wrapped in plastic. Notebooks bearing Juan Orlando Hernández's initials and documenting drug dealings were also discovered. The closest parallel to Hernández's case is General Manuel Antonio Noriega, former leader of Panama, who in 1992 was convicted in a Miami federal court of allowing the Medellin cartel to ship cocaine through his country to the United States in exchange for millions of dollars in bribes. Upon leaving office in 2022, Hernandez was widely disfavored in Honduras. His administration did little to alleviate the impact of criminal activity or foster a stable economy, prompting a significant number of citizens to emigrate to the United States. His successor, Xiomara Castro, accused him of converting the country into a narco-dictatorship, and thousands in Honduras heralded his extradition to New York. However, the Zelayas have not escaped scrutiny regarding their associations with narcotics traffickers. Analysts concur that over the past 2 decades, Honduras has transformed into a narco-state. As Mexican drug trafficking organizations tightened their grip on distribution networks, the strategic significance of Central America intensified. Local trafficking groups sprang up throughout the country, notably the Cachiros in the northeastern Caribbean coastal department of Colón and the Valles in the western Copan province bordering Guatemala. These groups collaborated with other Honduran crime figures, including business magnate and trafficker José Natividad Chepe Luna and drug trafficker José Miguel Chepe Handal, along with international cartels such as the Sinaloa cartel and the Jalisco New Generation cartel. The secluded, forested northeastern Mosquitia region and small islands along the Caribbean coast have become key hubs for drug flights and boat shipments originating from Colombia and Venezuela. Drug traffickers have deforested extensive areas of the country to construct airstrips and facilitate money laundering. Honduras' sparsely monitored border with Guatemala serves as a vital transit point for undocumented migrants, contraband, and narcotics. Gangs are heavily present in the nation's largest cities, including the capital Tegucigalpa, the economic center of San Pedro Sula, and the Caribbean coastal city of La Ceiba. The homicide rate in Honduras soared during the 2010s. The escalation in violence is largely attributed to gangs such as Barrio 18 and MS-13, who focus their criminal activities in urban settings and recruit from the youth population, many affected by rampant economic disparity and limited opportunities. These gangs, which are also active in Guatemala and El Salvador, frequently dominate entire neighborhoods, imposing their own rules, extorting businesses and residents, and managing local narcotics distribution and kidnappings. In 2010, the United States identified Honduras as a major drug transit nation for the first time. Since then, drug trafficking has escalated in the region, partly due to a surge in Andean cocaine production. Honduras has worked in close partnership with the United States to fight drug trafficking in recent years. In May 2014, Carlos El Negro Lobo became the first Honduran drug trafficker to be extradited to the United States. Subsequently, numerous high-profile suspects have been extradited, with several offering information to U.S. authorities as part of plea deals. In his first presidential campaign in 2013, Juan Orlando Hernández, representing Honduras's right-wing National Party, ran on a platform of strong law and order, vowing to combat the drug trafficking and crime epidemic besieging the nation. However, U.S. prosecutors allege that Hernández was complicit with the very criminal elements he pledged to defeat. Alexander Ardon, a convicted drug trafficker and ex-mayor of the small town of El Paraíso, testified that Joaquín Guzmán better known as El Chapo, and the former leader of the Sinaloa cartel, personally delivered a $1 million donation to Hernández's 2013 presidential campaign by flying into El Paraíso in a helicopter. Reportedly, one of El Chapo's preferred sanctuaries to lay low when facing heat in Mexico was on properties owned by the Valle family, his closest partners in Honduras. This illicit political contribution was made through Hernández's brother, Tony Hernandez, who was convicted of drug trafficking in 2019 and is currently serving a life sentence. Moreover, during the trial, the testimony from a former member of the Sinaloa cartel, under the pseudonym Luis Perez, revealed that the cartel provided a total of $2.4 million to Hernández's political endeavors. Perez explained that $1 million was channeled through an influential friend of Hernández stationed at the port of Cortez, which serves as Honduras's primary maritime drug hub. Hernandez also had intimate ties with the Valle family. A photograph, taken during the South Africa World Cup in 2010, shows Hernandez, then a congressman, along with Arnulfo Valle. The trial of Juan Orlando Hernández has emphasized a stark message that no one is beyond the reach of the law, not even a nation's president. This is Illicit Investigations. Subscribe now to our channel to go beyond the headlines.